Hello, my name is Diana Polhak, and my project is on an analysis of the longevity of prehistoric humans through the lens of human representation in cave art. And the reason I chose this topic is because I'm very passionate about gerontology, and I was very close to my grandparents when I was growing up. As I got older, I noticed that they were undergoing a lot of physiological changes, and that kind of sparked my curiosity in the field of aging. Another reason I chose this is because I find a great deal of satisfaction when we can connect something inanimate like cave art to a field of science. And it's also another great reminder that these individuals were real people with families and connections and a community. So there are certain physical changes that the body is subject to as a result of natural aging. Some of these can be conveyed visually. For example, osteoporosis, hair loss, skin textural changes due to loss of elasticity. More specifically, wrinkles, sunken eye sockets can develop, skin sagging, in certain places is also very common. Osteoporosis is a condition that can be visually observed if present in a person. So there's no reason to believe that this wouldn't translate in cave art if it is a physical characteristic of that person. After 40 years of age, bones no longer regenerate readily. As a result, bone mass loss is observed. What causes the observable symptoms of height loss and hunched posture is that in the spine, something occurs called a compression fracture. When the vertebrae are so brittle and weak, they can begin to crumble and fall apart even if the person hasn't experienced a fall. There's a wide variety of figures that can be considered representations of humans, even from the most simple stick figures. This was one of the grading methods I found that was used to describe each figure. These are all different beautiful pieces found in caves, and they do have a lot of detail, but unfortunately I'm not able to objectively discern what age the individuals are, but I will be instead focusing on the art found at La Marche. This site is about 15,000 years old, and the pieces are controversial since the date they were discovered in 1937 because they were believed to be fakes, and this still remains a topic of debate to this day. 1,500 etchings on limestone slabs were uncovered. Some of them were human, some of them were animals. About 155 of them are thought to be human figures. We also found some tools on the site, including chisels, scrapers, flints, hammers, blades, grain grinders, mortars that were made of quartz. So they could use dating tools of TL or OSL on the quartz items to probably measure like the last time it saw the sun. The limestone slabs were arranged on the floor, but they're not really sure their locations because in the early days of archaeology, when a site was found, oftentimes the area was cleared in preparation for examination of the art on the walls. And when this happened, they didn't really take care to make sure they didn't miss anything important, especially if they thought the etchings were fake. This happened with Lascaux in the 50s when they leveled the floor in order to make room for visitors so that they could monetize the cave. This is a very interesting cave to study because the figures found here are distinct in the level of detail. For the most part, I will show the slabs along with drawings aiming to interpret them. Some limitations of this analysis using the drawings is that many of the figures were transposed on top of each other, and this makes it difficult to discern between individual figures at times. And this is actually one of the arguments behind the this cave must be depicting historic cave art theory. But I think that's not really a good argument because if we look at paintings of cave art that are on walls that have been proven to be authentic, they do overlap each other sometimes. So to remedy this, archaeologists who studied the slabs made sketches to disambiguate individual figures. I have an issue with this too because there's a level of inaccuracy with that. Is this a mobile art? We are in a century where there's a lot of different diagnostic technology available to us. So what I would really love to see is them take this art and use a laser to scan it and then input that information into a computer and allow the computer to disambiguate the figures. Some of the positives are that we do have these sketches available to us, and it's a good tool to allow us to identify like what's going on. on the slab, and then we can, after that's out of the way, we can focus on different details that are important to us. This is an interesting piece because it is the only piece etched by itself with no other figures on top of it. And knowing these people, they were amazing artists who could be very accurate anatomically if they wanted to. So I'd say this figure is a male in his 20s. I just wanted to point out that what I said before about the differences in perspective between the sketches of the two different archaeologists is really shown here. So there are a lot of similarities that you can tell it's the same person, but there are differences that are important when looking at something like this. So for example, if you look at the lips, the individual on the right who drew that interpretation interpreted the grooves as a bottom lip, but the individual on the left interpreted the same area as a top lip. The artists that drew these had a great eye for dimensionality, so I consider it safe to assume that since the drawings are realistic and dimensionality is present, I can compare them to pictures of living individuals. So I'm using a side profile of Justin Bieber. I utilized the ear placement as a guide to determine that the individual was not hunched over and looking straight forward, not downward. And afterwards, I analyzed the features of the face to determine expression. With young individuals, because they have firm, elastic skin, they will often have more chiseled features in their youth, and I kept that in mind as I was looking at this. We can see that the strong jawline is present, as well as the skin on the neck is depicted in a very structured way and does not appear to sag to me. We can also see an indentation of the muscles in the neck, which will be less prominent as the individual gets older due to muscle tone loss and weight gain. We can also see a groove denoting the cheekbones, which I marked in orange. The base of the cheeks also looks like it has been defined, so either this person is making a certain facial expression or they have very prominent cheekbones. On that note, it is difficult to tell what the parallel lines are. I can say with confidence that they probably aren't wrinkles because they're all going in the same direction, which is inaccurate of what wrinkles would actually look like. As you can see, some wrinkles are deeper set in the picture, but they are all branching in pretty much different directions. Additionally, if they were wrinkles, you would expect to see them a lot more places than just on the cheeks. So in my opinion, I believe that the artist is trying to portray some dimension here to make the cheekbone look like it was kind of protruding out of the slab. So this slide serves as a commentary of the authenticity argument. These were animals that were found at the same location, and they were drawn in the same style, and most importantly, they were portrayed overlapping on top of each other. This is another controversial figure. Some people say it's depicting an old lady because the area around the eyes looks like it could indicate sunken eye sockets. It is believed that the figure is female because it is being depicted with another female. However, other people say it could be a baby based on the shape of the head, which looks like it could be depicting Cepha thematoma or a different condition which are characterized by temporarily cranial swelling due to a child. The latter explanation is makes more sense to me, especially since if you look at how the legs are drawn, it's proportioned to the rest of the body in comparison to the other drawing of the female is a little bit disproportionate if it were a full-grown human. Additionally, it seems like there's something protruding off of the figure's stomach area, and I think possibly be an umbilical cord. Females were also drawn in abundance, and they were often portrayed in groups with other females. These are the individuals separated. Some again, we see differences in, once again, we see differences in perspectives from one drawing to another of the same figure, but the conclusion is the same. So this figure on the top left is difficult to discern, but I believe it is a small child, especially since a lot of fine, small hair strands are depicted, which is usually the texture of a toddler's hair. And it's very distinct and different from that of an older child. The next figure is believed to be an older child with individual locks and of hair, and she's got very nice smooth skin, so I think she's like in her teens. The next figure I believe to be a middle-aged female We can see sunken eye sockets, possibly wrinkles sporadically throughout. The last figure, I believe, is of an elder female because it seems like the hair is thinner and she could have wrinkles like along the nose, mouth, and cheek area. If we look at male figures, we have an easier time discerning the advanced ages. So the individual on the left could be in his 50s or 60s. We can see a prominent beard, what looks like to be frown lines and deep set wrinkles around the eyes. It's hard to tell if any hair is present or he's bald, but to me it kind of looks like he's got hair on the side but is bald on the top. The next figure looks like he's in his 60s. Once again, beard, possibly braided. We see prominent nose with wrinkles, wrinkles around the eyes and forehead. Additionally, he appears to be bald with very thin hair around the side. These figures are what I call the elders, and they are assumed to be between 70 and 80 years of age. We have a bald head, prominent wrinkles around the mouth, nose, eyes, and cheeks. The skin looks like it's sagging, which is characteristic of this age group, especially under the chin. Figures were found that seem to be at all different stages of life. With that being said, you can make a little timeline of approximate prehistoric human lifespan using this information. Lifespan is different than life expectancy in the sense that lifespan is more about what age an organism can survive to, and life expectancy is the average age that people live or organisms live. So as individuals age, we can see the differences in skin texture and possibly the differences in the abundance of hair as well. We can look at a similar group of people with photographic portraits and see some of the same principles apply. Younger individuals have firm skin with chiseled features. Older individuals exhibit a change in skin texture, hair color, abundance of hair as well, and sagging skin around the face and chin, and more deeply set in sunken eyes. We can really see this chicken waddle under the chin in the 70 plus age group. Besides the fact that the art is very cool, why is it even important? Well, by studying other apes and animal species, gerontologists were able to develop an explanation about how we may have gotten our extended longevity today. So the theory dictates that in order to have extended longevity, a concept of family had to develop first. This meant that you had to have an overlap of generations in order to aid in raising children and improve survival of the group by everyone pitching in. So this means that the social complexity was formed here. So the model organisms show that social complexity and longevity reinforce each other. In essence, this means that parents took a hands-on approach in raising their children, which would eventually increase survival because they were being looked after. This also meant that mothers did not have to focus on making a whole litter in order for a few kids to hopefully survive. Instead, the health of the mother and the family is improved when she focuses on raising a few well. If we have longer lived mothers, we will see the evolution of grandmothers as well, which will no longer contribute to the group reproduction, but are very important caretakers. Giving birth has always been a formidable challenge for women. Even today, with all the benefits of modern medicine, people still die. Back then, with no medicine, it's safe to say that women would die from complications as well at higher rates. The grandmother hypothesis essentially states that women developed menopause after a certain age as an evolutionary benefit of losing reproduction abilities, and at an age where it would be more life-threatening. But the thing is, we didn't really know when grandmothers evolved in human evolutionary histories. And the whole thing will work together to make children healthier. So in more recent years, scientists have focused on debunking the lifespan question by looking at teeth of prehistoric humans or studying modern hunter and gatherer tribes, and they found that it was high probability that during the Upper Paleolithic there is consistent scientific evidence that would indicate individuals surviving to advanced ages. So this is revolutionary in the field because that means we now have a more educated idea of when grandmothers evolved in our human evolutionary history. As a tribute to this extraordinary community, I wanted to end with a beautiful adaptation of The Old Man.